What's up, Marvelites, and welcome to a brand new episode of the MCUExchange podcast. I'm your host for this episode. My name is Aaron. Alongside me is Charles
What's up?
and Joe.
Hello.
Hey, shout out to our listeners over at Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcast, Breaker, and Apple Podcasts. Hope you guys are having a good time. Thank you for joining us here in this episode. Let's get right to the news. It's been a crazy week of MCU news in the past week. Let's go. First up, a huge rumor from Illuminati has emerged where they exclusively revealed that Marvel Studios is developing a Marvel's Illuminati project with Kevin Feige at the producing helm. It is unknown whether this project will be an MCU film or a Disney Plus series. Illuminati. Okay. It's a secret group of heroes, right? In the comics, the members are Iron Man, Black Bolt, Namor, Doctor Strange, Professor X, and they oversee threats, right? And back in Endgame, we kind of saw somewhat a similar, not the Illuminati, but the similar setup where Black Widow, Rocket, Captain Marvel, and Okoye are there, and War Machine are talking about and the current status of Earth during the snap. Charles, who do you think will coordinate this team, like in post Endgame, and the
Man,
possible members as well?
yeah, it's so hard because you've got like Tony Stark's out, Cap is out, Cap was part of the point he's out. You're kind of left
Mm,
with Chala, Doctor Strange, and maybe you could put Banner in it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine Banner signing up for something like this, something that shady, especially when for the most part, he has seemed to learn from his mistakes from Ultron. The first thing he says to
mm,
Tony when he finds out Tony lost Vision is like, "You lost another, a robot." So I think Bruce is a lot more conscientious of stuff like this. But then again, the Illuminati in the comics is a group of very very intelligent beings who have who are very who usually have answers for whatever problems the world faces, and Bruce definitely could be one of them. Um, I think Captain Marvel could be a member of this in the MCU because
Mm-hmm.
simply for her experience in space
Yeah.
and her
mm,
all kinds of species out there. She definitely has that sort of that knowledge on how to deal with threats from all over the galaxy. So she could be part of that. And I don't know because we don't know what Professor X is gonna look like or gonna be like. Even we don't know what Reed Richards is gonna be like or whatnot.
mm,
We don't have Black Bolt, we don't have Namor. So they're definitely gonna have to adjust. I saw some people recommend some characters from the Eternals, which I could see because since they're Eternals, they've been around way longer than any of us.
Yeah, for
So
a long time.
mm.
they definitely have that worldly experience. So I could see an Eternal on the team. I'm not sure which. I saw some recommend what's her name? Salma Hayek, Ajak as part of
Yeah.
as the team.
Oh
But
yeah.
for the most part, it's gonna be a very very interesting lineup for sure. And I cannot wait to see how Kevin Feige introduces the team. I personally don't think it's gonna be a solo movie because I feel like it's gonna, you know, it's not as exciting, I guess, because you have a very very clandestine group of shady characters trying to control world events, and I'm not quite sure how that's gonna fit as a solo film. Also, the solo comic wasn't that amazing to begin with. It was more like, here's what happened, here's something that happened that you didn't know happened. It's the comic was basically just them filling blanks of various moments
Mm.
throughout history. So I'm not quite sure how this is gonna work as a movie or as a show, but I am excited that this is a very very likely possibility in the MCU.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting project. Moving on to you, Joe.
Mm.
Same question. Who do you think will lead the Illuminati and who are the possible members? But another question is, what event do you think will trigger the formation of this group? Is it during Endgame or the staff of Thanos, or do you think other big event that will be adapted soon to the MCU?
I think the biggest challenge, it depends on what exactly the Illuminati are supposed to do in this universe.
Yeah.
Because, with Iron Man, it was always, he was a bit like Batman in the regard that he was always superstitious and always thought something else was out there. And the Illuminati did get that huge storyline with the other, I think, was it in the Avengers where they, like, the different dimension Earths were colliding into each other, or
Yeah.
it was a really interesting storyline. But, like, that seems a little too early for now. It feels like maybe they're building up to something like that they can go all in on Secret Wars. It's so strange. Part of me is always wondering, is like, okay, who's going to start it? We don't have Charles Xavier. We don't have Black Bolt. We don't have Namor. Just like Charles said, we have none of the mainstays, and the ones we did have are dead or gone. So it's like, who's left? And I don't think, I agree, I don't think Hulk's going to be in it. My theory is that the Illuminati may spin out of the Eternals. It feels like they build up a bigger threat that maybe, because, they're also connected to Thanos, so there's a certain responsibility for them, so they kind of bring together these heroes or these unlikely group of characters that kind of decide where do they move forward. Or if they start brewing something, like there's some kind of like plot that's being uncovered, and we could see this kind of starting off into some kind of storyline. But the question is that if, Illuminati, is it a Disney Plus show? Is it a movie? I personally think it should be like a special where after big events, you have like this Illuminati. Because what's the story, I don't think they're going to make a show out of a bunch of superheroes sitting at a desk and discussing what's happening in the world,
Like a one-shot, maybe like that.
Yes, yeah, so I can see it like as a special one-shot, like after every major story where they get together and discuss things. It's not a high-budget project. You can still get them together and build up certain storylines and tensions. I mean, I would respect the hell if Kevin Feige just makes the Illuminati to easy say, oh, this is Black Bolt, this is our version of Xavier. Okay, X-Men movie's coming, Inhumans is coming. Just balls to the wall. Here are the characters. Let's go. It's a weird thing. It's a cool project, but at the same time, it works as in comic books, but I don't think it works in film as its own thing. Yeah. I think it would have been interesting to introduce it as like the Avengers are gone, everything went to shit, and the Illuminati are like the secret Avengers type afterwards, and use that as a storyline. But I have a hard time trying to figure out what they're doing as its own project.
Yeah, it totally makes sense if they will do a one shot or even a post-credit stinger for this group, because the characters involved in this group are powerhouse, like Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, like Black Bolt, and like they're the leaders of their own respective groups, and it kind of makes sense that you saying that it's supposed to be a one shot in the future. Moving on to the next news, we have another WandaVision news here. Charles Murphy from Murphy's Multiverse is reporting from two valid sources that one subplot in WandaVision will take inspiration from a story in John Byrne's West Coast Avengers Vision Quest. More specifically, it will take inspiration from the story beginning in issue number 42, in which Vision goes missing. Wanda searches for him and eventually finds that he was taken, stripped to his metal frame, and had all of his data wiped, leaving him with no memories of Wanda. And this could also potentially be how Sword will be involved in this series. Joe, what do you think of this subplot? Vision's parts. We didn't really know what happened to Vision's parts after Infinity War, and it was not addressed during Endgame, and we're going to find out here during WandaVision. Do you think it's like this is a good subplot? Like Wanda trying to find different parts of Vision in different places?
I think that it might be that she's not finding for his literal parts. I mean, the only thing that was missing from Vision was the big giant glowing stone in his forehead.
Oh, yeah.
And the hole that Thanos cripped out. What I could see, what I think would be interesting, is if they take this concept on a more metaphysical level. So it's pretty much she's going through these different timelines because she's looking for that. Because it was teased in the film that there's a part of him in there that isn't connected to the Mind Stone. So she's pretty much going through the remnants to find that, and her powers are creating these universes. So it's kind of like, I think Harley Quinn did a really good episode where they go into her mind, and they're trying to find like her self-esteem. I could see it kind of being the reveal of this show, is that was the concept. So that they're at Sword headquarters, Wanda's there, and they're pretty much trying to figure out what exactly is happening while she's in this mind space, creating these different crazy universes. Let's say.
Yeah. And so it's just going to be very interesting to find out how all of this would play out when WandaVision premieres, hopefully this December. Who knows? I don't know when. Charles, how about you? There's a running theory here that Sword is directly involved in this. And do you think Sword will go against Wanda, or do you think Sword will aid Wanda in finding Vision's parts?
Look, it's so hard because when me and Charles were recording our other podcast, before we recorded, we spent like an hour just talking about the scoops we had and how much we wanted to share some of them. And we eventually decided on this story. But in order for us to run the story, we had to withhold some information about it. We have more information about this particular scoop that we cannot discuss.
Yeah,
so there's stuff I know that I really want to say that it's like, oh, wait till you
Okay.
fucking find this happens. But I just can't. But I can say, as Charles says wrote his article, that Sword will play a part into this sort of adventure for Wanda in finding Vision's parts. Joe brings up an interesting sort of take on the story, which I actually haven't considered until now. That it could be something in her mind. I'm personally not sure if that's the case or if it's a literal Easter egg hunt for Vision's body parts. But yeah, the biggest question here is how the hell did Vision's body get scattered since we last saw him in Infinity War? Because we last saw him, he was pale, he was gray, and he had a hole on his head. But for the most part, he was intact, and I'm pretty sure Cap didn't leave his corpse in Wakanda after Infinity War. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they brought that home and buried it somehow. So I am curious what the hell happened to that body in the past 5 years since the snap happened and by the time Thanos gets defeated in Endgame. I'm curious, did it get stolen? Did someone steal it and sell it to black market all over around the world, because it is made of vibranium. It's a very
Rare, yeah.
it's a very rare item. So I'm just super duper curious about it. I am wondering if whether Sword has it in the first place. This is not part of the stuff we know. We're also curious whether maybe Sword has the body in the first place, because again, it is vibranium. It has a lot of special properties. Maybe they need it for some of their technology. But then again, I also don't see that happening, because that's the body of an Avenger. And I'm pretty sure if Wanda finds out Sword has it, she'd fucking freak out. But then again, that might be the whole reason why the multiverse splits. Maybe she freaks out and finds out you guys were have husband's body and you're not telling me, you never told me. It could be something like that. So many questions. Again, WandaVision continues to be the craziest MCU property right now, and this story has more questions than even us. Even though we have more answers to this coup, we're also left with more questions. So super super exciting stuff.
Just imagine the movie opens up with you have the scene with Wilson and old Captain America sitting there, and he goes, "Whatever happened to Vision?" You just see him go, "Ah, shit," and it just cuts to him still laying there covered in moss.
And like the old Cap saying, no, I don't think I will tell you.
I don't think I will tell you. He's just still laying there. I really hope that we also get a return of Ultron in some form, because he was an important aspect of the character in the MCU, and I think it would be fantastic if they bring him somehow back.
It would be a fun way to for Ultron to return through Vision's body in a way. Maybe, I don't know.
He's the stepfather.
Yeah. Whatever the case, guys, WandaVision is going to be one of the craziest MCU projects that will premiere soon, and can't wait to find out. Now, moving on to another Disney Plus series, we have two big news here for Miss Marvel. It's been reported by insider Charles Murphy of Murphy's Multiverse that Marvel Studios is planning on finalizing casting for Kamala Khan, the lead character of the Disney Plus miniseries Miss Marvel, sooner rather than later. Although her own solo series won't begin filming until November of this year, there's growing belief that Kamala will appear in another MCU project before her own series premiere. Okay, let's go to speculation territory here. Miss Marvel will appear before her own solo Disney series is kind of makes sense because this is the MCU. It's a long spanning narrative. Joe, the question is, where do you think he will appear? Do you think he will appear in Spider-Man 3, Captain Marvel 2? Because this is a 2022. They have a 2022 release date, so there are shows and movies before that, before her own show. So where do you think she will appear?
I don't know why, but I'm slowly having the suspicion. Like, if you think about the projects that are coming, if it's coming out in 2022, there's not much to think about. And I think Spider-Man 3 really should be focused on Spider-Man more because, he's on the run. Maybe she has a cameo. But if they go from a story perspective, this is a crazy theory right now, but I could see her making an appearance at the end of Falcon the Winter Soldier.
Wow. Why?
Yeah, this is where I go. I don't know why, but I'm a little crazy with this. The whole thing is that the original plot for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, what was talked about was a viral threat. What if that viral threat is the Terrigenesis bomb?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So
now that's interesting.
It would be one way to introduce the Inhumans indirectly, build it up, but like that the cast and crew, so the people that are trying to get this bomb active think it's a virus that'll kill people. And it ends up actually transforming people into Inhumans. So it's one way to kind of avoid the whole virus aspect that I think they were kind of reshooting. But at the same time, I think it would be a really good way because my feeling is that the beginning of Miss Marvel will be like her normal life, and then the bomb hits and she transforms.
Mm-hmm.
But where would you have the bomb hit? There's no reason in this universe for now to have where it could go off, and that I think would be the perfect way to kind of segue into it. You still have a big profile show to kind of build up to this new original character on a Disney Plus side, and it's a continuous story on the Disney Plus productions as well. So they kind of interweave into each other like the movies did up till now, with some callbacks to the film, so that can kind of cross wire. That's my theory.
That's a very
probably
interesting
unlikely, but it would be cool.
That totally makes sense. If that viral bomb is going to be Terrigen bomb, well, it's gonna make sense. Charles, how about you? Where do you see Kamala Khan showing up before her series?
I think the most logical one right now, at least story-wise or character-wise, is Spider-Man 3. But I guess the problem with this is that, with the Sony stuff, with the right stuff and whatnot, I think it's going to be a lot more complicated than said, because I'm not quite sure how Sony is willing to add a character like this, a character that's not necessarily a name brand character like Iron Man. I mean, Kamala Khan being in Spider-Man is surely gonna be a hit for fans, but for general audiences, they probably won't give a fuck because they don't know who Kamala Khan is yet. But then again, Kamala Khan is based on New Jersey. Peter Parker is in New York. It's a lot closer generally. There's a bit of intersection there, especially they're both very young. They're both kids and whatnot. So that's sort of where my mind goes to. But the Falcon and the Winter Soldier theory of Joe is very, very interesting. I also didn't think about the viral threat being a Terrigen bomb that sort of is going to create a new wave of powered people around America. Yeah, I actually haven't thought about that. It's a pretty interesting thought. I mean, if anything, if Kamala doesn't show up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, if that happens, if that Terrigen bomb does happen in the show, I could see that storyline, overlapping with Captain Marvel's at least. If Joe's theory, that's the way. That's how I'm seeing it.
Miss Marvel will be will open the floodgates for Inhumans to be introduced properly to the MCU. And now let's move on to one of my favorite segments of the show, the S.H.I.E.L.D. Season Pass. We're going to talk about Season 7, Episode 9, as I have always been. Before I say anything, before we move on, I would just say that this is my favorite episode of the entire show. I love it. Even though someone died, and we'll go to that later. I love it, like the chemistry, the time. I'm always a fan of time loops. Time
Mm.
of time centered stories, time travel, time loops, everything. I just and being it having it adapted to a superhero show like Agents of Shield and also Avengers Endgame in the past, it fascinates me because it opened up a lot of possibilities, and this episode didn't disappoint. You agree, Joe?
Yeah, it was a very, very well done episode.
Very, very well done, and the comedic timing, uh, the heartfelt lines, and that looming message from Enoch at the end. It's a
Mm.
perfect combination, and let's break this down. So they're in a time what's the term, they're in a time vortex or something. they're,
Vortex,
tr-
yeah.
they're trapped there, and whenever time resets, they inch closer to the void, like they're going to be destroyed in
Yep.
space, in space time. So, and Daisy is not really affected because she's in a chamber of some sort, and also Coulson is charging. And
Mm.
we also saw very drastic fates for Mac during the first set of time loops because he got
Jesus.
blinded, and also someone tries to kill them, which we discovered in the later part of the episode is Enoch, and it's a very, very, very incredible writing because it manages to up the stakes, even though they didn't, even though they're in a confined space in the Zephyr, and
Mm.
with all that action, that humor and drama, and all at once. And this episode was directed by Simmons herself, Elizabeth Henstridge, and kudos to her for this. Is really, time loop centered stories are really difficult to direct because
Yeah.
there's always going to be a uh, the continuity, trying to establish that, the lines and stuff like that. And she's also acting in this episode, so that's gonna make it hard for her, but she pulled it off. What do you think about
Mm.
Henstridge directing and the overall episode?
As you said, this is not one of the easiest type of stories to tell because you could easily fall into a repetition that doesn't help.
Yeah.
They did incredibly well. Have to say the timing on a lot of like these moments were very well done. Some of them were absolutely hilarious. Probably some of the funniest moments in the series, and it's still very emotional.
Hmm.
It's I don't know if this is her first time directing, but
It's her first time.
it's her first time.
Yeah.
Kudos, amazing stuff. And I think like with some of the best episodes is when they're very close to what the actors are doing. And Clark Gregg's own episode he directed were also really well done. So yeah, I hope she gets to direct more because this was a fantastic start.
And also in the past episodes, we've seen chemistry between Mac and Deke. And in the previous episode, we see the dynamic between Yo-Yo and May. And now we go
Yeah.
back to the roots of Agents of Shield, which is focusing on a dynamic between Chloe Bennett and Clark Gregg, Daisy and Coulson,
Yeah.
which has been really the core of this family, as Daisy pointed out. And you see the relationship, the familial relationship evolve over the years, and the the chemistry between the two hasn't been front and center, ever since Coulson has been in LMD, and this episode shows how 7 years worth of chemistry is right there.
Yeah.
Like even it doesn't turn off. Like it's right there, and it's I'm really fascinated. Like and the writing, creative choices of them being uh placed together as the two protagonists sort of this episode. Like they're trying to
Mm.
find out how to help the team to get out of the funk in a way, right? What do you think of that chemistry between Bennett and Greg?
They always had great chemistry. The father-daughter dynamic was what, like you said, is one of the driving things of of this series, especially like with May as the mother figure and all that. And it was great to see Agent Coulson as an LMD kind of humanized a bit more, and I think
Yeah.
this is a huge, like, that was one of the huge storylines they're setting up with this, because the poor guy probably saw everyone die repeatedly and is getting tired of it.
Yeah. 200 times,
And,
almost 100
yeah,
times in the loop. And you know, it has that adorable line that, you know, I've seen you die. I can't. I don't want to see it again. Like, you know,
mm,
and the fun thing about him being an LMD is he's going back to the Coulson of season one. You know, the fun-loving father of the team.
yeah,
Like, knows how to crack jokes, knows how to do comedic timing, right?
yeah, he is a bit like. I mean, I think the advantage is he's not director anymore, so he doesn't have all that weight on his
Burden.
shoulders.
Yeah, the burden,
Yeah,
the responsibility.
and he's doing. I mean, Clark Gregg has been always a probably the standout in general for this show, and he's the entire reason it exists. So it's so great to see him in his element. It's just some hilarious moments. I mean, the moment where he gets Yo-Yo out of the helicarrier,
Yeah,
he gets out, he just freaking goes, "Oh goddamn!" Just cuts right off. That was probably one of my favorite moments. Plus the dark humor this time around, like when they attack Enoch.
yeah.
And just everyone's like half dead, laying there. It's like,
Oh my
is
god.
Teak dead? Shouldn't we be mourning him? And it just repeats again.
Like, you know, I love that sequence. Like, they're trying to carve a plan to stop Enoch, and then before that moment, like all of them tries to attack him. Before that moment, like he's like saying like, okay, we're gonna call the cavalry now. Gonna call the rest of the team. And then and that sequence, that camera shot, like all of that, it's amazing. And when 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 they're half dead, as you said, and pretty entertaining to see. And I've had a lot of laughs while I was watching that, and it's very. I want to repeat that scene over and over again, and couldn't stop laughing.
Oh my god! A lot of fantastic moments in this.
And I'm gonna talk about an intimate moment now, because for the first time ever, Daisy kissed another person in the form of Daniel Sousa. I didn't see that
Yeah,
coming.
I mean,
I
it kind of teased it. It's kind of funny. She's kind of kissing her version of Captain America.
Yeah, sort of. I'm gonna ask you, Joe. Do you think that this love affair, love story, will move forward? You know, especially the season is ending and they've kissed at the ninth episode with 4 episodes left to go. Do you think that this will last, or do you think that this is just a one-time thing?
I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't think the kiss was in a time loop that continued.
Yeah.
Or at least I'm not sure. So I don't know. The thing is I have no idea where they're going with this. Next week they seem to be going back to the main plot line that is once again very Inhumans focused.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I giving her track record, I doubt it's going to go well. You know, Daisy just never had the best of luck. I don't think we have another Lincoln on our hands.
Mm-hmm.
I at least hope not, because I think Sousa is such a great character. He deserves a bit more of a send-off.
Please not.
But yeah, it's a difficult one. It's really difficult because they could go either way with this pretty much at this point.
Yeah, and I hope this will be addressed in some way in the next few episodes. Let's talk about the MVP of the episode, which is of course Joel Stoffer as Enoch.
Fantastic, yeah.
Fantastic, top-notch performance. Yeah, for his last episode. I don't know if he will return in some way, but I think this will be his last episode of the series ever. And my God, his speech at the end caught me. I shed a tear, honestly, when I was watching it for the first time. And during that episode, I mean that scene where he talks about this will be your last mission. You need to cherish it. Your friends will live, but the team will not continue. It's like a tease in the end of the series. Like this team will break up. I mean, this team will go in their separate ways after this final mission. How do you think that it will totally affect? Do you think Daisy and Coulson will tell that to the team in the next episode? Like, hey guys, it's our final mission. Enoch told us this thing, or Do you think that it will disrupt the dynamic or disrupt the mission in a way?
Um, I don't think they're gonna say anything. I think they're not gonna take it serious. And one thing I'm unsure about is that pretty much the scene says you all are gonna survive.
Yeah.
That's odd. That's a very odd thing to specifically reveal. Because in some way you could argue, okay, that takes away all the tension. They're going to survive anyway. I don't think he really means like they're all going to survive per se. I guess they're all going to have like some kind of moments of happiness. But yeah, it was pretty. I think it's a bit on the nose. That was like, oh, it's your last mission because the whole season is called that. In the marketing, it's the final season of the show. What I'm curious about is why. Like, why will this be? Because they've had enough reasons to be like, okay, this is our last mission. What makes this specifically the last time they can hang out?
Yeah. We can. Go on.
I just have a feeling that something's gonna happen that either drives them apart. So like we had that moment with Simmons where she started crying out, and I have a feeling that whatever happened to Fitz, who's still not here, he still did not show up.
Yeah, I'm gonna point that out later. Still not here. 9 episodes in, he's not a series regular anymore.
Yeah, it's weird. It's an
really
interesting decision. But I just slowly I get the feeling that a lot of them are not going to return to their main timeline. This is my theory right now. Okay. So I have a feeling they're going to be split up. I have a feeling Sousa's going to either go back to his original time or live on in some other version where he becomes a cop in New York. I'm still hoping for that.
Me too.
But something's off. It seems to, for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was too on the nose.
Really? Yeah, it's really on the nose. It's why do you do that? Like, I mean, it's not a spoiler in a way, but it's like kind of feeding the audience and hey, we're not gonna die. Like the team is not gonna die in a way that we're not going to be a yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to survive this, but we are going to survive this because this is our final mission, and it is a happy ending. But as we all know, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., not everything is a happy ending. You mentioned that it will be something like being separate in a different timeline, because that kind of makes sense because this team already saw various deaths in the past, right? Like they didn't stop missions after those deaths. So I think that in some way, this is a time-centered story, that them being stuck in another timeline kind of makes sense in a way.
Mm. I still think that this season should end in the Avengers, the original timeline from the Avengers film. And I mean, if they manage to even be in the timeline that was during Endgame, where everything keeps getting changed around, that'd be even more hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so weird. It's weird because we still had a perfect ending 2 seasons ago.
I love that ending.
But it's like it's a fantastic ending. So like the question is, what does this mean? Where are they gonna go? It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be really, really interesting.
Can't wait to find that out. And for the love of God, no Fitz yet. Come on, guys. We're in double digits already for the episodes, and it still hasn't shown yet for some reason. And I'm tired of speculating how he will show up. I just wish he shows up in a way. And yeah, I love that you
four more episodes.
Yeah, 4 more episodes. I love that you pointed out that Simmons is crying when her implant was removed, and it's like she's saying, oh, "No, Fitz, no." Something must have happened to him. Yeah.
This won't end well.
This will not end well. For Fitz, not for the team, according to Eno. Joe rating, one being the lowest, 5 being the highest. What's your rating for this episode? I think I know your rating.
This is a 4.5 to a 5 for me.
Okay. Why? Because of the action, of the heartfelt scenes.
Because it balances everything so well that I don't think a lot of TV shows have done till now.
Yeah.
And I think that deserves a lot of praise. Plus, has some of the funniest moments. I love Coulson getting fed up with everything. Probably one of the most hilarious thing ever is just seeing him tired of everyone's shit. And I'll be honest, bonus points for Deke is dead, but no one seems to care. That was hilarious.
Joe, I just want to point it out that you mentioned last week. Is it me or you? But okay, let's say we. We mentioned last week that during the time loop, the opening logo will repeat, and we are correct. That's why. We are correct that it came up twice during the episode. That's a very entertaining time loop plot. My rating for this one is 5. I love this. This is an episode that's worth repeating. I love the Agents of Shield episode this week. I will repeat it no matter how many times because that scene where they're trying to attack Enoch is gold for me. That's something.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Poor Daisy constantly getting just shoved against that one door.
Yeah, and poor Deke. They don't care about Deke. It's just sad.
Should we be sad? I don't
know. Okay, props to that. And well, that brings us to the end of the episode. All right. Please do follow me on Twitter. My Twitter is twitter.com/AaronChino. That's AeronChino. You can also follow Joe on Twitter.
At that Bell, ThatAberl.
You can also follow Charles on Twitter.
You can follow me at CFS Villanueva.
I hope you guys are staying safe. Last shout out to our listeners over at Spotify, YouTube, Anchor, Google Podcast, Breaker, and Apple Podcasts. Please do head over to our website at www.MCUExchange.com. You can also follow us on Twitter for your comments, suggestions, and violent reactions. I don't know. Twitter.com/MCUExchange. You can also go head over to our YouTube page. That's MCU Exchange for all the latest MCU videos brought to you by Charles. Amazing editing. Okay. Let's see you next week, guys. Thank you for tuning in. This has been me, Aaron, Joe, and Charles for the MCU Exchange Podcast, episode 29. Stay safe, guys.